Watch is made of space rockets. Not from any rocket. From the Soyuz, the mother of all space rockets.
We cut the material directly out of the rocket shell.
The mother of all rockets. Welcome back to Curiosity Hub, I'm Ollie Hubbard. So a few months ago, Phoebe, my awesome girlfriend, bought me a WERENBACH watch. And it arrived today. So it's not just any watch, it's a watch made of part of the Soyuz rocket that went into space carrying astronauts and cosmonauts to the International Space Station. And now there's a little bit of it that I can wear on my wrist. And it's at her house. So let's go check it out. Hey Mo. Oh, that is so cool.
I'm sitting here wondering. I'm sitting here wondering. I'm sitting here wondering.
So it's been a few weeks since I got the WERENBACH watch and it has held up amazingly. It still blows my mind where it's been. It's just awesome. But it has been making me think a fair bit about space and also time. So time is a universal thing, but how we measure it is really human. I mean, it's just totally wrapped up in an earthly perspective, which isn't really that surprising because to measure time, you need something repeating in a reliable way. And so when we first started to measure time, we looked at the apparent movement of the sun around the earth, and then we continued to look at things that we could see. The Egyptians were doing this thousands of years ago with their sundials. They're measuring the sun's movement from sunrise to sunset. And how many parts did they divide it up into? 12. That's because the Egyptians relied on a duodecimal or base 12 number system. They even broke up their night into 12 parts as they tracked the movement of constellations. But obviously the actual time it took for these hours to pass varied with the seasons. But nobody cared. Even in the 18th century, towns went by their local clock, which hit noon when the sun hit its highest point for that town. So the next town on would therefore have a clock which was slightly different. But again, it didn't really matter. That's until the 19th century when rail and telegraph meant that people had to coordinate. And that's when we decided to all sync up to Greenwich Mean Time. But hold on. Why does that modern clock still have 12 parts, just like the Egyptians? So what started this obsession with 12? Well, the Egyptians probably liked it because you can count to 12 on one hand. I didn't get it at first either, but you can use your thumb as the pointer and then each of the 3 parts of your 4 fingers. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Pretty cool. Now you can use this hand to say how many lots of 12 you've got. So now you've got 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and so on, or 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and so on. Now, what happens when we fill all 5 fingers worth of 12? 5 times 12, 60. And now this is the reason that the Babylonians probably liked the base 12 number system and the base 60 number system. And it was the Babylonians' influence through thousands of years that we eventually got 60 minutes in an hour and 60 seconds in a minute, largely because we adopted their system of degrees. Now, 12 and 60 also make fractions really easy, and that's because 12 and 60 have more factors than any number less than them. So, for example, 12 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12, and 60 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 15, 20, 30, 60. So, for example, what's a third of an hour? What's a third of 60 minutes? 20 minutes. Easy. But if we're dealing with a decimal system, which is base 10, what's a third of 100? 33.333333 forever. 12 was probably also significant to these cultures because of this guy and these. The lunar cycles. You've got 12 lunar cycles during the 4 seasons. And this is evident in how China kept time, through the 12 zodiac animals or earthly branches. They had a series of 12 double hours of the day and night. Their years are even grouped into 12 and named after the 12 zodiac animals. I mean, you've probably heard of Year of the Tiger or Year of the Dragon, but this 12-year cycle is actually after the almost 12-year orbit of Jupiter. But still pretty cool that there are just so many 12s. Essentially, the way we keep time from hours to months to days to minutes to seconds is just a quirk of history, which is largely based on people viewing the apparent movements of celestial bodies from down here on Earth. So, what happens when we go into space and we lose all points of reference? We can still keep time. I mean, we've got atomic clocks, and astronauts on the International Space Station can just wear regular watches. But those astronauts see 16 sunrises and sunsets every 24 hours. And their just normal sense of time is maintained through artificial lighting. But we can't do that for a whole planet. So, what happens when we get to Mars? It has days of 24 hours and 40 minutes, which is actually amazingly similar, but it's not like it's a time zone on Earth which is just 40 minutes ahead or behind constantly. Rather, 40 minutes is added every single day. Scientists and engineers who have been working with Mars rovers while still living on Earth have sometimes had to adapt to Mars time. So this means that on day 1 they're coming into work at 9 a.m. But the next day, 9:40. The next day, 10:20. And after only 13 days they're coming in at 5 p.m. But from the perspective of the Mars rover, they're coming into work at the same time every Martian day, or every sol. That seems like it's going to get really confusing and difficult when you've actually got people living on both Earth and Mars and huge amounts of communication between them. Not to mention people living on space stations and people living on the moon as well. And as well as all that, you've got time delays just because of the speed of light. So I think the time delay between the Curiosity rover averages about 13 minutes. So it's so confusing. I think we're actually at a similar time to when rail and telegraph forced us to reconsider our perception of time and how we would coordinate over the new, seemingly endless distances. I'm not sure how we're going to do it, but I'm sure we will. In the meantime, I have a watch made of a Russian rocket with the legacy of ancient Babylonians and Egyptians on the front of it. So, the next time you look at a clock, think about the thousands of years of ideas behind it, and also wonder whether it will ever change. And just to be clear, this wasn't a sponsorship or anything. I just think WERENBACH are doing really, really amazing stuff, and the guys behind it are super genuine and seem driven by a really deep philosophy. I mean, they sent me this, which is awesome. This is from Kazakhstan. I mean, The postcard's from Switzerland, but the image is from Kazakhstan, where they found the part of the Soyuz rocket. And this is Patrick and Marco. So thank you again, and I really encourage you to check out the link in the description and see what they're doing. And if you missed the 2017 supermoon, I've got you. You can check it out just there. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd really appreciate you subscribing or sharing it, just so I can keep giving you more. But anyway, thank you again, and as always, stay curious.